There is something waiting for you at the end of this week. Not something arriving from outside. Not a package or a phone call or a stroke of luck delivered by some cosmic postal service. Something that is already forming right now, in the space between what you have been carrying and what you are about to set down. And the reason you are hearing this today, in this moment, is not random. It is not algorithmic coincidence. It is because there is a window, a very specific kind of opening, and it does not stay open forever. By Friday, something will have shifted. The only question is whether you shifted with it or whether you stood still and watched it close. Now, I want to be honest with you from the beginning, because this is not about fear. This is not about a countdown clock designed to make you anxious. When I say you will regret not hearing this before Friday, I do not mean that something terrible is going to happen. I mean that there is a specific quality of readiness that peaks in you at certain moments in your life. And when that readiness peaks and you do not act on it, you feel it afterward. You feel the weight of the missed opening, not as punishment, but as the quiet ache of a wave you saw rising and chose not to ride. You have felt this before. You know exactly what I am talking about. That dull recognition weeks or months later that there was a moment, a real moment, when everything was lined up and you hesitated just long enough for the alignment to pass. What I want to explore with you today is the actual mechanism underneath that. Not the spiritual platitude that timing matters, but the real, specific, demonstrable reason why readiness has a structure, why certain windows open and close, and why the version of you sitting here right now is not the same version that will be sitting here next week. This is about the physics of decision thresholds, the neuroscience of the gap between knowing and doing, and the strange quantum property that means your observation of a possibility literally determines whether it collapses into your reality or dissolves back into the field of what could have been. Let me start with something precise, because precision is what separates understanding from wishful thinking. In 1984, Benjamin Libet conducted an experiment at the University of California that disturbed the scientific community and continues to disturb it today. He asked subjects to flick their wrist whenever they felt the urge to do so, and he measured 3 things. He measured the moment the brain began preparing the movement, using an electroencephalogram to detect what is called the readiness potential. He measured the moment the subject reported consciously deciding to move, and he measured the moment the wrist actually moved. What he found was that the brain's readiness potential began roughly 550 milliseconds before the wrist moved. But the conscious awareness of deciding to move did not appear until about 200 milliseconds before the movement. The brain was preparing to act a full third of a second before the person was aware of choosing to act. This experiment has been debated for decades. Some use it to argue that free will is an illusion, that the brain decides and consciousness just watches. But that is not what the data actually shows when you look closely. What Libet himself noticed was that while consciousness did not initiate the action, it had a window, roughly 100 to 150 milliseconds, in which it could veto the action. The readiness potential would fire. The impulse would rise. And in that tiny gap, awareness could say no. Or it could say yes. The conscious self was not the author of the impulse, but it was the gatekeeper of whether the impulse became real. Sit with that for a moment. Your body, your deeper intelligence, is constantly generating readiness. It is constantly preparing you for movements, for changes, for leaps. Most of these readiness potentials never reach your conscious awareness. They fire and dissolve below the surface because nothing in your environment or your attention catches them. But some of them rise. Some of them become that feeling you get in your chest when you know something needs to change. That restlessness that is not anxiety, but is something closer to a signal. That pull toward a conversation you have been avoiding, a decision you have been circling, a version of yourself you keep glimpsing but not stepping into. If you are feeling that pull right now, there is something deeper I want to offer you. Have you spent years chasing manifestation, visualizing, affirming, raising your vibration, only to watch the same patterns repeat? Every traditional method assumes the same thing, that you are separate from what you want. That separation was never real. You were chasing a signal you were already broadcasting. Beyond the frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery walks through all 9 frequencies, from the dense transmissions trapping you through the ascending currents, to the master frequencies where consciousness becomes the field. Every method you tried sent a signal outward. This one tunes the signal you already are. Every day you delay, your nervous system broadcasts the same old signal, and breaking free gets harder. So move on it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now let us return to the readiness potential and what it means for your week ahead. The readiness potential is not a metaphor here. It is a literal neurological event that your body generates before your mind catches up. And the window in which consciousness can act on it, can say yes to it rather than vetoing it back into silence, is small. Not because the universe is cruel, but because the brain is efficient. It does not keep offering you the same opening indefinitely. If the signal rises and you consistently veto it, the system learns. It stops sending the signal as strongly. The readiness potential for that particular movement, that particular change, that particular leap begins to attenuate. It gets quieter. Not gone, but buried under thicker layers of inhibition. This is the mechanism underneath what people call a missed window. It is not mystical punishment. It is neurological adaptation. Your system offered you a readiness, you did not act on it, and your system adjusted. It moved its resources toward maintaining the current pattern rather than disrupting it. And the next time the possibility arises, the readiness potential is weaker. The conscious awareness of it is dimmer, and the veto happens faster and more automatically. This is how people wake up 5 years later and say, "I always knew I should have done that thing." They did know. Their body told them. The readiness was there. The window opened, and they watched it close. Now here is where this becomes specifically relevant to you, right now, this week. There is a concept in physics called hysteresis. It appears in magnetics, in materials science, in thermodynamics. Hysteresis describes a system whose current state depends not only on the forces currently acting on it, but on the history of forces that have acted on it. A piece of iron, for example, does not simply magnetize in proportion to the magnetic field applied to it. If you increase the field, the iron magnetizes along a certain curve. But if you then decrease the field, the iron does not demagnetize along the same curve. It follows a different path. It retains some of its magnetization even after the external field is reduced. The system has memory. Its past shapes its present response. You are a hysteretic system. Your current state is not simply a product of what is happening to you right now. It is a product of every force that has ever been applied to you and, crucially, of how you responded to those forces. Every time you acted on a readiness, you magnetized yourself in a particular direction. Every time you vetoed a readiness, you created a residual pattern that resists future change in that direction. This is not karma in the vague sense. This is the actual physics of how responsive systems retain their history. And here's the part that matters for this week. Hysteretic systems have thresholds. There are points where a small additional force, applied at the right moment, can flip the entire system into a new state. In magnetics, this is called the coercive force, the minimum field strength needed to demagnetize the material and reorient it. Below that threshold, nothing visible happens. The system absorbs the input and stays where it is. But at the threshold, the same small push that previously did nothing suddenly reorganizes the entire structure. You are approaching one of those thresholds. I say this not because I know the details of your life, but because you are here. You are listening. Something in your deeper intelligence generated a readiness potential strong enough to bring you to this exact moment. And the fact that you have not clicked away, that you are still here, means the signal is strong. Your system is close to its coercive point. The accumulated forces of everything you have been through, everything you have learned, everything you have quietly outgrown but not yet released, have brought the internal field to a point where a small, specific, conscious act could flip the orientation of the entire pattern. But thresholds do not wait. That is not a threat. That is the nature of dynamic systems. The conditions that create a threshold are themselves in motion. The alignment of internal readiness and external circumstance that makes a small push sufficient rather than insufficient is temporary. Not because the universe is testing you, but because everything is moving. The river does not stop to let you decide whether to step in. If this is resonating with you, if you can feel the signal I am describing, take a moment right now and hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. That small act is itself a readiness potential you are choosing not to veto. Now, let me take you somewhere specific. Let me take you somewhere specific now, because I want you to understand this not just as theory, but as something you can feel in your own body. Think about the last time you almost said something true. Not a lie you caught yourself telling, but a truth you caught yourself about to speak. Maybe it was in a conversation with someone close to you, and you felt the words forming, felt the readiness in your chest and your throat, and then something pulled them back. A calculation, a fear, a habit of protection so old it does not even feel like a choice anymore. It just feels like who you are. And the moment passed. The conversation moved on. And afterward, maybe minutes later, maybe hours, you felt it. That particular heaviness that is not sadness exactly, but is more like the weight of something that was supposed to happen and did not. That heaviness is the residual magnetization. It is your system recording the fact that a readiness potential rose, a threshold was approached, and the veto won. And now the path back to that same opening is slightly longer, slightly steeper, slightly more resistant. Not impossible, but harder. This is the actual cost of hesitation, measured not in spiritual abstractions, but in the literal restructuring of your neural and emotional patterns. Now multiply that by every truth you have swallowed, every leap you have pulled back from, every time your body said now and your mind said not yet. Each one added a layer of residual resistance. Each one moved your personal coercive force a little higher, meaning it now takes a bigger push to flip you into the new orientation. This is why change feels harder the longer you wait. It is not because you are weaker or less capable. It is because the hysteresis of your system has accumulated. The gap between where you are and where you need to be to tip has gotten wider with each missed window. But here is what makes this week different, and I want to be very precise about this. There is a phenomenon in quantum mechanics called tunneling. It is one of the strangest and most well-confirmed predictions in all of physics. When a particle encounters a barrier, classical physics says that if the particle does not have enough energy to get over the barrier, it will be reflected. It will bounce back. It cannot pass through. But quantum mechanics says something different. It says that the particle's position is not a single point, but a probability distribution, a wave function spread across space. And when that wave function encounters a barrier, most of it is indeed reflected. But a small portion of it extends through the barrier and emerges on the other side. The particle has a non-zero probability of appearing beyond the wall, even though it never had enough energy to climb over it. This is not a thought experiment. This is measurable. Tunnel diodes work because of this. Radioactive decay happens because of this. The sun fuses hydrogen into helium because of this. Because protons in the sun's core do not actually have enough energy to overcome their mutual electromagnetic repulsion. But they tunnel through the barrier and fuse anyway. The sun shines because particles do the impossible, not by gathering more force, but by existing as probability rather than certainty. You are not a proton. I am not going to pretend that quantum tunneling scales directly to human decision-making in a literal, physical sense. But the principle it reveals is not confined to subatomic particles. The principle is this. When a system exists in a state of genuine uncertainty, when its position is not fully determined, when it has not collapsed into a fixed outcome, it can pass through barriers that would be impenetrable to a system that has already decided where it is. And this is the state you are in right now. You have not yet decided. You have not yet collapsed the wave function of this week into a fixed outcome. The barrier you are facing, whatever it is, the fear, the doubt, the old story about who you are and what you are capable of, that barrier looks solid from the perspective of your fixed identity. From the perspective of the you that has already decided it cannot be done. The wall is real and impenetrable, but you have not decided. You are still in superposition. You are still a probability distribution spread across multiple possible versions of this week. And in that state of genuine undecidedness, the barrier is not what it appears to be. This is not about positive thinking. Positive thinking is just choosing a different fixed position. I am not asking you to stand on this side of the wall and convince yourself the wall is not there. I am asking you to notice that you are not standing anywhere yet. You are spread across the space. And in that spread, in that genuine openness to what has not yet been determined, there is a non-zero probability, a real one, that you emerge on the other side of the barrier without ever having had to climb over it. I want to pause here and ask you something. What is the barrier you are facing right now, this week? What is the wall that looks solid from your fixed identity but might not be what it appears? Tell me in the comments. Not for me, but because the act of naming it is itself a measurement, a first step toward collapsing the wave function in a new direction. But here is the catch, and this is where Friday becomes relevant. Wave function collapse. The moment you measure a quantum system, the moment you observe it with the intent to determine its state, the probability distribution collapses into a single outcome. Before measurement, The electron is everywhere it could be. After measurement, it is in one place. The act of looking, the act of determining, forces the system to choose. You are going to look. By Friday, you are going to look. Not because I say so, but because that is what time does. Time is a series of measurements. Each moment is an observation that collapses the possibilities of the previous moment into the actuality of the present one. By Friday, the readiness potential that is firing in you right now will have been either acted upon or vetoed. The threshold you are approaching will have been either crossed or retreated from. The superposition you are currently in will have collapsed into one specific version of events. This is not a prediction. It is the nature of how moments work. The question is not whether the wave function will collapse. It will. The question is what you are doing with your attention between now and then. Because in quantum mechanics, the outcome of the collapse is not random. That is a common misunderstanding. The outcome is weighted by the probability amplitudes, and those amplitudes are shaped by the configuration of the system before measurement. In plain language, what you are doing right now, how you are orienting your awareness, what you are feeding your attention to, is actively shaping the probability distribution that will collapse into your Friday. Let me make this practical. There is a practice I want to walk you through, and it is not a visualization or an affirmation. It is a specific attentional exercise rooted in what we have been discussing. I want you to try this tonight before you fall asleep, and then once more at some point before Friday. Find a moment when you are lying down and the day is releasing its grip on your attention. Do not try to relax. Do not try to meditate. Just notice the transition that happens naturally as your body begins to let go of waking consciousness. There is a specific moment in that transition, and if you have never paid attention to it, you will be surprised by how distinct it is. It is the moment when your thoughts stop being directed and start becoming associative. When the logical thread you were following dissolves and images or fragments begin to arise on their own, not chosen by you, but not quite random either. Hypnagogia, the threshold state between waking and sleeping. In that state, I want you to do one thing. I want you to notice the readiness. Not create it, notice it. Somewhere in your body, there is a sensation that corresponds to the change you have been approaching. It might be a warmth. It might be a tightness. It might be a strange feeling of expansion in your chest or a pulling sensation in your stomach. Do not name it. Do not interpret it. Do not decide what it means. Just feel it. Let your attention rest on it the way your attention rests on a sound in the distance, without grasping, without analyzing, just witnessing. What you are doing in that moment is something very specific. You are observing the readiness potential without vetoing it. You are letting the signal rise to conscious awareness without applying the habitual inhibition that usually sends it back underground. And because you are in the hypnagogic state, the part of your brain that normally generates the veto, the prefrontal override that says, not now, not safe, not ready, is partially offline. It is still there, but its grip is loosened. The gatekeeper is drowsy. This is the neurological equivalent of allowing the wave function to evolve without premature collapse. You are not deciding. You are not forcing. You are letting the probability distribution spread into its fullest configuration before any measurement occurs. And when you do this, something shifts. Not dramatically, not with fireworks, but structurally. The readiness potential strengthens. The hysteresis of your system softens slightly. The coercive force required to flip your orientation decreases. You are, in the most literal sense available to a human nervous system, lowering the barrier. Now I want to go deeper into something that most people misunderstand about timing, because this is the core of why this week matters and why the window is real. There is a concept in nonlinear dynamics called sensitive dependence on initial conditions. You have probably heard it called the butterfly effect, but the popular version strips out everything useful and leaves only the vague idea that small things can have big consequences. The actual mathematics is more specific and more profound. In a chaotic system, two states that are almost identical, different by an amount so small it is practically immeasurable, will diverge exponentially over time. Not linearly, exponentially. This means that the difference between acting today and acting 3 days from now is not a 3-day difference. It is an exponentially magnified difference. Because every moment between now and then is a branching point, and the branches multiply. The version of you that acts on the readiness today enters a cascade of subsequent moments that are fundamentally different from the cascade entered by the version of you that waits until Monday. Not slightly different, categorically different. Different conversations, different internal states, different responses to the same external events, because the initial condition was different by the smallest possible margin, the margin between yes and not yet. This is why people who have been through genuine transformation always say the same thing when they look back. They do not say it was the big dramatic moment that changed everything. They say it was a small, quiet, almost invisible moment when they simply did not do what they usually do. They did not veto the readiness. They did not pull back the truth. They did not wait for conditions to be perfect. They just let the next moment be different from the last one by the smallest possible amount. And that tiny divergence, amplified through the chaotic dynamics of a life in motion, became everything. This is what I mean when I say you will regret not hearing this before Friday. Not because Friday is a magical deadline imposed from outside, but because by Friday, the cascade will have begun. The initial conditions will have been set. The exponential divergence will already be underway. And the difference between having heard this, having felt the readiness, having done the practice, having lowered the barrier by even a fraction, and not having done any of that, will not be a small difference. It will be the kind of difference that only becomes visible months from now, when you look back and realize that this was the week. This was the threshold. This was the moment the system flipped. Let me tell you about something that happens in the body that most people have never been taught to recognize. When you are approaching a genuine threshold of change, your nervous system does something counterintuitive. It does not feel like excitement. It does not feel like clarity. It feels like fear. Specifically, it feels like the kind of fear that has no clear object. Not the fear of a specific threat, but a diffuse, sourceless anxiety that seems to come from nowhere and attach itself to everything. You start worrying about things that did not worry you last week. You feel a restlessness that you cannot locate. You might have trouble sleeping, or you might sleep too much. You might feel an inexplicable urge to clean your house, reorganize your life, or start arguments about things that do not actually matter. This is not dysfunction. This is your nervous system doing exactly what it is supposed to do at a threshold. The autonomic nervous system has two branches, and you know them as the sympathetic and parasympathetic, the accelerator and the brake. But there is a response pattern that does not get talked about enough. and it is what happens when both branches activate simultaneously. When the system is receiving a strong signal to move forward and an equally strong signal to stay safe, it does not choose one. It activates both. And the subjective experience of both branches firing at full power is a kind of vibrating paralysis, a feeling of being simultaneously pulled forward and held back, an internal trembling that is not visible from the outside but is unmistakable from within. If you are feeling that right now, in this week, I want you to understand what it means. It means the readiness potential is strong. It means the signal to change is genuine. And it means the old pattern is fighting for its life, not because it is evil or broken, but because it is a pattern. And patterns do what patterns do, which is persist. The discomfort you are feeling is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that two forces are meeting at a threshold, and the system has not yet decided which way to tip. I want to hear from you on this. Have you felt that vibrating paralysis this week? That sensation of being pulled forward and held back at the same time? Drop a comment and describe what that feels like in your body right now. Because when you put language to it, you begin to shift from being inside the pattern to observing it, and that shift changes everything. This is the moment that matters, not the moment of the change itself, which is often surprisingly quiet and undramatic, but the moment before. The moment of maximum ambiguity, when you cannot tell whether you are falling apart or coming together, because from the inside, those two things feel almost identical. The caterpillar in the chrysalis does not experience metamorphosis as a beautiful transformation. It experiences it as dissolution. Its body literally liquefies. Every structure it knew itself to be breaks down into an undifferentiated soup of cells. And from inside that soup, there is no way to know that what is happening is not destruction, but reorganization. The information is the same. The feeling is the same. The only difference is what happens next. And what happens next depends on whether the system allows the process to complete or whether it tries to reassemble the old form. This is the veto I have been talking about. Not a dramatic refusal, not a conscious decision to reject change, but a subtle, almost imperceptible tightening, a pulling back toward the familiar, a regripping of the identity that is dissolving, and it feels like wisdom. It feels like caution. It feels like being responsible. That is the cruelty of it, that the veto disguises itself as the mature choice, as the safe choice, as the choice that a reasonable person would make. And so you make it. And the readiness potential subsides, and the threshold recedes, and you go back to the life you had, and everything is fine. Everything is fine, except for that heaviness, except for that quiet, persistent sense that something was supposed to happen and did not. I want to talk about what the chosen one actually means, because that phrase carries baggage and I want to strip it down to what is real. You are not chosen in the sense that some external deity pointed a finger at you and said, you are special, you get the magic. That is a child's version of the idea, and it keeps people passive, waiting for a sign, waiting for permission, waiting for the universe to make the first move. The real meaning of chosen is closer to something that the physicist John Wheeler suggested when he proposed the participatory universe. Wheeler, who coined the term black hole and worked alongside Bohr and Einstein, spent the last decades of his life developing an idea he called the participatory anthropic principle. His claim was radical. He said that the universe does not exist in a definite state, independent of observation. He said that observers, conscious participants, are not just witnessing reality, but are actively calling it into being. Not creating it from nothing, but participating in the process by which the possible becomes the actual. In Wheeler's famous delayed choice experiment, which was proposed as a thought experiment in the 1970s and confirmed in laboratory settings decades later, a photon is sent toward a detector with two possible paths. If you set up the experiment to detect which path the photon took, it behaves as a particle and takes one path. If you set up the experiment to detect interference patterns, it behaves as a wave and takes both paths. This is the standard double-slit result. But Wheeler added a twist. He asked what happens if you delay the choice of which measurement to make until after the photon has already passed at the point where it would have had to decide whether to be a wave or a particle. And the answer, confirmed experimentally, is that the delayed choice still determines the outcome. The photon's behavior in the past is consistent with a measurement made in its future. This does not mean you can change the past. It means something stranger. It means the distinction between past and future is not as clean as we assume. It means that your active observation, your conscious participation, is not confined to the present moment, but is woven into the fabric of the event in a way that transcends simple linear time. This is what it means to be chosen, not selected by an outside force, but participating in the selection. You are the observer whose measurement determines which possibility collapses into reality. You are the delayed choice that retroactively shapes what was always going to happen. And the reason this matters right now, this week, is that you are in the delay. The photon is in flight. The experiment is running, and the measurement has not yet been made. You are in the gap between the event and the observation, and what you choose to observe, what you choose to measure, what you choose to attend to, will determine not only what happens next, but what was always happening all along. This is not magical thinking. This is the experimentally confirmed behavior of the physical world at its most fundamental level. And while I am not claiming that a photon in a laboratory and a human being facing a life decision are the same system, I am saying that the principle, the deep structural principle that observation participates in the creation of reality, does not stop being true just because the system gets more complex. If anything, it becomes more true. Because a human being is not observing from outside the system. A human being is the system observing itself, and that recursive loop, that strange self-referential quality of consciousness looking at consciousness, is where the real power lives. So when I say you are the chosen one, I mean you are the one doing the choosing, right now, this week, in every moment between now and Friday. Not choosing in the sense of picking from a menu, but choosing in the sense of collapsing the wave function. Choosing in the sense of participating in which version of this week becomes real. And the readiness you feel, that trembling, sourceless, unnameable readiness, is not a symptom. It is the signal. It is your system telling you that the probability distribution is spread wide, that multiple outcomes are genuinely possible, and that your attention, your conscious, deliberate, unflinching attention, is the measurement that will determine which one manifests. Let me bring this back to the body, because understanding this intellectually is only half of the circuit. The other half is somatic. It lives in your tissue, your breath, your nervous system. There is a practice from contemplative traditions that has a direct analog in what we have been discussing, and it is the practice of holding paradox in the body without resolving it. Most of us, when we encounter two contradictory truths simultaneously, immediately try to resolve them. We pick a side. We decide which one is real and which one is illusion. We collapse the superposition into a single state because the discomfort of holding both is unbearable. But the contemplative traditions, and particularly the Zen koan tradition, are built on the recognition that the resolution is not the point. The holding is the point. The koan is not a riddle to be solved. It is a state to be inhabited. What is the sound of one hand clapping is not asking for an answer. It is asking you to hold the question open in your body until the question itself transforms you. This is what I am asking you to do between now and Friday. Not to resolve the tension you are feeling, but to hold it. Not to decide whether the change is coming or not, but to remain in the superposition. Not to collapse the wave function prematurely by either committing to hope or retreating into doubt, but to stay in the spread. To let the probability distribution remain wide. To resist the urge to measure too soon. Here is a second practice, and this one is for the daylight hours. At some point tomorrow, or the day after, you are going to encounter a moment of choice. It might be small. It might look insignificant. It might be the choice to say something you usually swallow, or to not say something you usually say automatically. It might be the choice to pause before reacting, or to act before the pause talks you out of it. You will know it when it comes because you will feel the readiness potential fire, that quick, sharp signal from somewhere below your conscious mind that says this one matters. When that moment comes, I want you to do something very specific. I want you to notice the gap between the signal and the veto. Libet's gap. That 150 milliseconds between the moment you become aware of the impulse and the moment you would normally override it. I want you to feel that gap, not think about it, feel it. And in that gap, instead of vetoing, I want you to simply exhale. One breath, not a deep breath, not a dramatic breath, just a normal exhale. And in the space created by that exhale, let the action complete itself. Do not force it. Do not will it. Just remove the veto and let the readiness express itself. This is the smallest possible divergence in initial conditions. One exhale. One unvetoed impulse. One moment where you let the wave function collapse in a direction it has never been allowed to collapse before. And because of sensitive dependence, because of the exponential amplification of small differences in chaotic systems, that single moment will cascade. Not in a way you can predict or control, but in a way that is real and structural and irreversible. There is a verse in the Tao Te Ching, the 22nd chapter, where Lao Tzu writes something that has been translated many ways, but that I want to render as plainly as possible. He says, "Yield and overcome, bend and be straight, empty and be full." The logic of this is the logic of the threshold. It is the logic of quantum tunneling. You do not overcome the barrier by gathering more force. You overcome it by becoming less solid, by letting your fixed position soften into a probability distribution, by yielding the certainty of who you think you are long enough for the wave function to spread through the barrier and emerge on the other side. This is not passivity. Passivity is collapsing the wave function into the state of inaction and calling it peace. This is something entirely different. This is active non-determination. It is the deliberate choice to remain uncollapsed, to stay in superposition, to hold the paradox of being simultaneously terrified and ready, simultaneously dissolving and forming, simultaneously the caterpillar and the butterfly, until the system itself finds its new orientation, and it will find it. That is the part people do not trust. They think that if they stop forcing, nothing will happen. They think that if they release the veto without replacing it with a new command, the system will simply stall. But that is not how dynamic systems work. A system at threshold does not need to be pushed. It needs to be allowed. The readiness potential is already there. The energy is already sufficient. The only thing preventing the transition is the habitual inhibition, the pattern of vetoing, the residual magnetization of every previous time you pulled back. Remove the inhibition, and the system does what it was always trying to do. Before I bring this to a close, I want to suggest something. Consider listening to this again tomorrow morning before your day begins. Letting these ideas settle into your body as a kind of tuning before the noise starts. Or share this with someone you know who is standing at their own threshold right now. When you share these ideas with another person who is also at a point of criticality, you create a resonance between two systems approaching their coercive point simultaneously, and that resonance lowers the barrier for both of you. The probability distribution does not just spread across your own possibilities, it spreads across the field between you. I want to close with something that ties all of this together, and I want to be direct about it. The reason you are hearing this now is not because the universe chose you in some passive, flattering sense. It is because you are at a point of genuine criticality. The forces acting on your system, internal and external, have accumulated to a point where the threshold is close. Not metaphorically close, structurally close. The readiness potential is firing. The hysteresis is at its coercive point. The probability distribution is spread wide enough that tunneling is possible, and the window in which all of these conditions coexist is finite, not because of some mystical deadline, but because you are a dynamic system in motion, and the conditions that create a threshold are themselves temporary. By Friday, the measurement will have been made, not by the universe, by you. By the accumulated weight of every small choice you make between now and then. Every moment you hold the superposition rather than collapsing it prematurely. Every impulse you allow rather than vetoing. Every exhale in Libet's gap. Every night you rest your attention on the readiness without naming it or interpreting it or running from it. These are not spiritual platitudes. These are the specific, concrete actions that lower the barrier, soften the hysteresis, strengthen the readiness potential, and widen the probability distribution. They are the actions that make tunneling possible. They are the actions that allow a system at threshold to tip. And the version of you that does these things, the version that heard this and acted on it, even in the smallest way, will not be the same version that wakes up next week. Not because something was done to you, but because you participated. Because you were the observer that collapsed the wave function. Because you were the delayed choice that determined the outcome retroactively. Because you were, in the deepest and most literal sense available to a conscious being embedded in a quantum universe, the one who chose. That is what it means to be the chosen one. Not chosen by something outside you. Chosen by the part of you that has been generating readiness potentials for longer than you know, waiting for the one moment when the veto does not come. Waiting for the one exhale that lets the signal through. waiting for this week. Do not let it pass in silence. If this reached you at the right moment, and I think it did, stay here. Subscribe to this channel, not as a passive act, but as a marker, a small, concrete commitment that you are paying attention, that you are in the experiment, that you are choosing to remain in the superposition rather than collapsing back into the old pattern. Leave a comment, not for me, but for yourself. Write down what you are feeling right now, even if it is just one word, because the act of externalizing the internal state is itself a measurement. It is itself a collapse in a chosen direction. And share this with someone who is also at their threshold, because the probability distribution does not just spread across your own possibilities. It spreads across the field between conscious beings, and when two systems at threshold encounter each other, the coercive force required for both of them drops. You know what you need to do, your body has been telling you. The readiness is already there. This is the week. Do not wait for the wave function to collapse on its own. Be the observer. Be the measurement. Be the one who chose.